What's up, Facebook fam? I hope everybody is doing well today. Happy Monday. I want to just say something real quick. I'm not going to take a long time today, but I do want to inquire something of you. Let me ask you a question. How do you view you? How do you view you? A great theologian named Cat Williams once said it's called self-esteem. How do you view you? Let me ask a question, because there's a text over in Deuteronomy and into Joshua, but where there's some spies who were sent over into the land, and these were the big dogs, the chief among the tribes. These were so they went over. They were to spy out the land. That's all they were to do. They were just to look at the land. But the problem is, when they went to look at the land, instead of just looking at the land for what the land could be, God said, I'm going to give you the land. They went over there and began to compare themselves. And let me tell you something. So when they went over there, they ended up having an improper view of others. What does that mean? You have an improper view of others when you begin to compare yourself to someone else. Listen, comparison is the killer of hopes. Comparison can be the killer of dreams. Comparison can be the killer of your self-esteem. When you start comparing yourself, how do you measure up? How do you stack up against somebody else? How do you look at what somebody else has versus what you have? How do you look at where somebody else is in life versus where you are in life? How do you look at what somebody else drives versus what you drive? How do you look at how somebody else dresses versus how you dress? When you start to compare yourself with other people, you begin to have an improper view of others, because God didn't make them to be you and he didn't make you to be them. So it becomes an improper view when you begin to look at people for other than for who they are, and appreciating them for who they are, because that's who you should be. You should be appreciated just for who you are, not to be compared to somebody else. And so these spies, man, they had an improper view of others because they began to compare themselves. And where'd that come from? Where did that come? Because that wasn't their assignment. So where'd they get that they had to look or think or compare themselves to someone else? What did they start saying? They started saying stuff like we look like grasshoppers in their eyes. They had a self-inflicted inferiority complex. And so not only when you have an improper view of others, it can make you have a low view of yourself. That we seem like grasshoppers in their eyes and in our own eyes. Let me just tell you something. Whenever you minimize you, especially after you have looked at what somebody else said, you take away what God has said to you. God said, I'm going to give you the land. He said, it's flowing milk, and I'll go see the land. And instead of seeing the land, they saw people. And instead of seeing themselves in the land, they saw the people being the obstacle to them getting what they want. Listen, when God gives you a word, when God tells you that something is for you, man, don't worry about who's in that land. God said, if it's for you, it's for you. And don't compare yourself. Don't talk about how much money you have. Don't talk about what you drive. Just focus on what you heard God say. So make sure that you have a proper view of others, to make sure you don't have a low view of yourselves, because then it also makes you have a leaky view of God. What does that mean? A leaky view of God. That means no matter what God does, and no matter how many times God does it, it's almost as if God has to keep proving himself over and over, because every time he does something for you, it's like you forget about it. Like you don't remember what God has done. And so he does it again for you, and it's like you forget. So over and over and over, God is having to prove himself. Over and over and over, God is having to do it all over again for you. Listen, stop comparing yourself to others. God made you an original. He didn't make you like anybody else, and he didn't make them to be like you. So be yourself. Walk in the confidence of who God made you, so that you can have a proper view of others, and you don't have to have a low view of yourself, nor do you have to have a leaky view of God. If God said it, God is good for his word. We're the ones who have let God down. If God said it, God is good for his word. Come on, somebody say with me, God is good all the time. That's right. And all the time, y'all better ask somebody. It's good to see everyone of y'all on the line. I love you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, friends, we'll see you.